Reddit is one of the largest websites on the internet. Millions of people use it every day to share opinions, ask questions, and find communities with similar interests. But what most people don't realize is that some of its communities were so disturbing, so dangerous, or so psychologically dark that they were completely erased. Today, while I explore this Minecraft world, we're going to descend into an iceberg of Reddit's darkest communities. And with each level we go down, things will become more unsettling. Welcome to the channel. Here I play Minecraft while diving deep into the darkest corners of the internet, unexplained communities, and disturbing human behavior. Today's video is structured like an iceberg. At the top are the communities that are easier to find, more public and slightly disturbing, but as we move down, we enter places that many people don't even know existed. As I go deeper underground in Minecraft, the topics will get darker as well. Let's begin with level 1. On the surface, Reddit looks normal. It's full of advice forums, hobby groups, memes, and jokes. But even at this first level, there are communities that make you pause and and feel slightly uneasy. One of the most well-known examples is a community where people share their secrets, things they've never told anyone in real life. Confessions about relationships, betrayal, obsession, jealousy, and hidden thoughts. At first, it feels harmless, almost therapeutic, a place for honesty. But then you start noticing a pattern. Some people confess to watching others without being noticed. Some admit to lying to those closest to them. Some casually mention thoughts that feel dangerous. And the most unsettling part isn't the content. It's the fact that these are real people typing real thoughts that they've held inside for years. Another well-known but disturbing corner is where real tragedies and disasters are discussed. News stories are posted there that most people avoid looking at. Accidents, crimes, human suffering. It turns people's worst moments into content. At first, you might justify it as awareness or information, but if you stay long enough, you start to feel the shift. Sometimes the comments aren't sympathetic, sometimes they aren't human at all, and that's when it stops feeling like a normal community and starts feeling like a digital crowd watching from behind a glass wall. There are also communities dedicated to obsession over certain people, obsession over appearances, obsession over being perfect, thin, rich, admired. These spaces don't always look evil. In fact, many of them look like support groups. But slowly, their advice becomes extreme, their standards become impossible, and their members grow more insecure, more controlled, and more trapped. Even at the top of the iceberg, you begin to realize something uncomfortable. The internet doesn't just show you who people are. It reveals who they become when nobody's watching their face. And that feeling, that slow discomfort, is what keeps people coming back. Because even when something makes us uneasy, curiosity is stronger than fear. There are communities built entirely around watching strangers, not in a physical way, but through their lives online. People analyze social media accounts, look for details in photos, track patterns in someone's behavior, and quietly build entire stories about people they've never met. At the surface, it's presented as a discussion or analysis, but step back for a moment and realize what it really is. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of strangers, observing someone who has no idea they're being watched this closely. The person becomes a character and not a human. Another type of community focuses on judgment. People upload pictures of others and ask for opinions. They ask strangers to rate faces, bodies, homes, outfits, or lifestyles. At first, it looks like honesty and advice. But if you look closer, it becomes something else, a digital courtroom, a place where strangers decide someone's worth based on a few images and a short caption. Some comments are supportive, but many are brutal, unfiltered, unapologetic, detached. And it doesn't take long before you realize how easily a crowd can turn cruel when there are no consequences for their words. Even in communities that are technically harmless, the patterns remain the same. Loneliness, validation, attention, control, or power. Reddit in its simplest form is just a website, but the people inside it bring their deepest insecurities, desires, frustrations, and fantasies with them. And when those emotions combine behind anonymous usernames, the result is something far more powerful than most people expect. This is still the surface level of the iceberg. No rules broken, no laws crossed, just human nature, unfiltered. But right now, as we go deeper into the ground in this world, as the light from the surface fades away, we leave behind the uncomfortable truth of level 1 and move toward the part of Reddit that crossed the line so serious that it was completely erased. Level 2 begins now. Level 2 is where things go from unsettling critters to unacceptable. These are the communities that didn't just make people uncomfortable, they caused real harm. At one point in time, All of these communities were fully visible on Reddit. Anyone could find them. Anyone could join them. Anyone could participate in them. And for a while, nobody stopped them. Some of these spaces were built around hate. People gathered to attack others based on who they were, where they came from, or what they believed. Over time, it stopped being discussion or dark humor and became something much more organized and dangerous. The language became more extreme. The jokes became more violent. The ideas became more radical. And the more members a community gained, the more powerful and confident they felt akita. In other cases, these communities weren't focused on ideology to Gakurachum, but on real people. There were groups dedicated to tracking strangers. People would share screenshots, personal information, locations, routines, schedules. Sometimes they claimed it was for awareness or for research, but in reality it was hunting, a digital version of stalking that was happening in public view, but hidden behind anonymous usernames. What made it even more disturbing was the way these groups encouraged each other. If one person hesitated, the others pushed. If someone felt guilt, they were laughed at. If someone crossed the line, they were praised. This is where psychology changes. It stops being about curiosity or boredom or even anger. It becomes about power. It's the power to see someone's life, or the power to control a narrative, the power to destroy a reputation with a single post. And slowly what began as a community turned into something closer to a weapon. Reddit eventually took notice. Entire subreddits were shut down. Threads were deleted. Accounts were permanently removed. On the surface, it may look like the problem was solved, but removing a community doesn't remove the people inside it. Those users didn't disappear. They just learned to hide better. And as we go deeper into this world, further from the light of the surface, we start to see what happens when the dangerous minds don't disappear. They evolve. And that takes us deeper into the iceberg, towards a level that wasn't just banned, but lived inside people's minds. As these spaces grew darker, something strange began to happen. The members stopped seeing Reddit as a website and started seeing it as a tool to influence, a tool to punish, a tool to control narratives outside of the internet. They would coordinate mass harassment campaigns. They would flood people's inboxes with threats and insults. They would target individuals simply because the group decided they deserved it. To them, it wasn't abuse, and it was justice. But there was no judge, no proof, no right to defend yourself. Just strangers behind screens deciding someone's fate. This is one of the most dangerous parts of group psychology. When people gather in large numbers and share the same anger, they don't feel like individuals anymore. They feel like a force. And forces don't feel guilt. They don't feel responsibility. They don't feel the consequences. They only feel momentum. Some communities crossed even further, discussing real-world violence, glorifying harmful acts, turning tragedy into entertainment or inspiration. Many of these threads were removed before most users ever saw them. But for the ones who did, those ideas don't just vanish. They settle into the back of the mind. Reddit's decision to remove these communities was necessary. But it also revealed something important. The platform wasn't the real problem, was it? The people were. Reddit was simply the surface where these thoughts were able to gather, connect, and grow. And once people with the same darkness find each other, it becomes much harder to control. That is why level 2 of the iceberg matters. It's the proof that when anonymity meets emotion and logic disappear and behavior changes. But as disturbing as level 2 is, it still exists in the real world, which means we can still understand it. We can still recognize it. We can still avoid it. Level 3 is different. Level 3 doesn't just live on websites. It lives inside people's beliefs, inside their identity, inside the way they see reality itself. And as I continue going deeper into this Minecraft world, as the environment becomes more isolated, darker, quieter, we are about to enter the most psychological part of the iceberg. Level 3, it begins now. Level 3 is different from everything before it. This isn't about harassment. It isn't about illegal content. It isn't even about cruelty in an obvious way. Instead, it's about belief. These were communities built around ideas that slowly disconnected people from reality. At first they looked harmless, even comforting, a place for people who felt different, misunderstood, or out of place in the world. People would join because they felt lonely, or unheard, or confused. And for a while it helped. They were welcome, validated, told they were special, told they were different from everyone else. But that's where the shift began. Slowly the language changed. Members started to refer to normal people as if they were less than human, sleepwalking like an unaware or say the way programmed. They called themselves the awakened, the chosen, the ones who see the truth. At first they felt empowering, but over time it became isolating. Friends and family were labeled as enemies. Teachers were labeled as liars. Doctors were labeled as agents. Reality itself was labeled as fake. Anyone who disagreed wasn't just wrong, they were part of the system. This is one of the most dangerous tricks in psychology. If you can convince someone that only you are telling the truth, you control their entire world. These communities didn't need chains. They didn't need threats. They used ideas, and ideas can be far more powerful than force. People stopped questioning the group, stopped questioning themselves, stopped questioning the voice in their own head, and the deeper they went, the harder it became to come back. On the outside they looked the same, but on the inside, their reality had already been replaced. And as I move deeper into this world, I get farther away from sunlight. The silence around me grows heavier, just like the silence that surrounds people trapped in these spaces. But level 3 goes even further than belief, because the deepest psychological communities didn't just change thoughts, they changed identity. They changed who a person thought they were, and that is where things become truly disturbing. In the deepest parts of these communities, something changed. People didn't just believe different things, they became different people. Usernames turned into identities. Beliefs turned into personalities. 8. And the real world slowly started to feel like a dream. Some members began speaking as if their past life had died, and this new version of themselves had been reborn through the community. They stopped using their real names, ignored their real responsibilities, and disconnected from anyone who didn't share the same thinking. They called it freedom, but it was actually the opposite. The more they tried to separate themselves from society, the more dependent they became not on themselves but on the group. Validation came only from people who agreed with them. Worth came only from status inside the community. Identity came only from the shared belief system. This is the hidden danger of psychological spaces like this. They don't lock you in. They convince you that there is nowhere else worth going. And the scariest part is how slowly it happens. There is no single moment where a person becomes lost. It happens in small steps. A comment that changes how they think. A post that rewrites how they see the world. A group that replaces their sense of self. Until one day the outside world feels wrong, and the digital one feels real. That's when influence becomes power, and power in the wrong hands doesn't need violence. It only needs belief. These communities eventually disappeared, faded, or were removed, but the people who were shaped inside of them didn't simply reset. They carried those ideas with them, into real life, into their families, into relationships, into the way they see everything. This is why level 3 is so disturbing, because it proves something important. The most dangerous manipulation doesn't leave physical scars, it leaves mental ones. And by the time someone realizes what happened, they no longer know who they were before. And now, as this world around me grows quieter, as the light is almost fully gone, we approach the deepest part of the iceberg, a level that isn't just lost, it's erased. Level 4 is waiting. Level 4 isn't just hidden, it feels forgotten. These weren't simply controversial communities. They weren't just banned for breaking rules. They didn't get the usual warning, lock, or public explanation. They just stopped existing. People would click links that once worked, only to see empty pages. Archives would lead to broken trails. Screenshots would be the only proof that these places were ever real. Some users remembered entire communities that couldn't be found anymore. They described posts that no longer existed. Conversations that never appeared in any backup, bro. At first, people assumed it was a glitch, a server error, a technical issue, and should go. But the pattern repeated. More communities disappeared. More users vanished. And the strange part was not just that they were gone, it was that Reddit never addressed them. No statement, no explanation, no acknowledgement. Almost as if it was meant to be forgotten. Inside these lost communities, users often posted cryptic content. Long blocks of text that didn't quite make sense, repeating numbers, unusual symbols, strange repeating phrases. Some felt automated, some felt intentional, and some didn't feel human at all. People tried to decode them. They searched for patterns, connections, hidden meanings. But every attempt only led to more questions. No clear answers ever came, and with each disappearance, curiosity only grew, because nothing is more unsettling than the unknown. And level 4 isn't disturbing because of what we can see, it's disturbing because we can't. As I move even deeper into this Minecraft world, far below the surface, where there is hardly any sound, it starts to feel the same way. Empty, quiet, but be aware. And while level 4 is about what vanished, there is still one final level left. A level so deep that even calling it a community might be too generous. The deeper people tried to go, the stranger the story became. Some users claim that when they first found these communities, the member count never changed. It stayed at the same number for days, sometimes weeks, even though new posts continued to appear. Others said that when they attempted to comment, their message would show on their screen, but no one else could see it. Almost like the space existed only for watching, not participating. There were also accounts connected to these vanished communities that behaved unnaturally. They never slept. They posted at the exact same times every single day. They responded with identical phrases no matter the question. Some users believed they were automated bots. Others believed someone was running a long-form experiment. And a few believed something much darker, that these spaces were not meant for public eyes at all. The most unsettling reports came from users who claimed the communities appeared to them once and never again. They searched. They bookmarked. They were refreshed. Nothing. As if the moment had erased itself, no trace in history, no record in saved posts, no mention in search results, only memory. And the internet is not supposed to lose memory. That's what makes level 4 so disturbing. The internet remembers everything, except when it doesn't want to. As more reports surfaced, fear slowly replaced curiosity. People stopped looking, not because they found answers, but because they realized some answers might not be safe to find. And as I reached the deepest point in this Minecraft world, where the ground has almost disappeared, and nothing exists beneath me but darkness, it brings up an uncomfortable thought. What if some communities aren't removed for breaking rules, but for being seen at all? And that question leads to the final level. The part of the iceberg that doesn't just disappear, it denies that it ever existed. The part is so deep, it no longer shows up in the light of the internet. Level 5 exists only in whispers. The final level of this iceberg isn't a list of names. There are no screenshots, no links, no archives, because this level never wanted to be documented. It doesn't exist as a page, a forum, or a community that you can search for. It exists as a result of everything that came before it. The surface level curiosity, the banned ideas, the dangerous beliefs, the removed spaces, the vanished voices. Level 5 isn't about where these people gathered, it's about where their thoughts went. Some disappeared communities didn't die. They simply spread into private servers, encrypted chats, hidden networks, and isolated individuals. The structure is gone, but the mindset remains, and that's the most unsettling part. Online, it's easy to imagine danger as something visible, a post, a forum, a comment, a community, but the deepest danger was never on a screen. It was in the way people learned to think. The lines between reality and fiction blurred, empathy grew weaker, connection faded, and isolation became normal. Level 5 is the point where the internet doesn't just reflect humanity, it reshapes it. And once that happens, there is no thread to delete, no page to remove, no account to ban, because the community no longer lives online, it lives in the mind. And that means the most important warning isn't about websites or platforms. It's about awareness, about questioning the spaces you enter, about protecting your thoughts, about leaving when something feels wrong, obsessive, or toxic. Curiosity is powerful, but so is influence. And not every dark corner of the internet is meant to be explored. Directed quote, "Some are meant to be left untouched." This was only the first iceberg, and there are many more beneath it. If you want to go deeper, you already know what to do. But remember, the deeper you go, the harder it is to come back.